Bojo is no mo. The breakdown starts now. Welcome to the breakdown. I'm Tara Setmayer. This is the Rick Wilson. And if you don't know who Bojo is, it's Boris Johnson, our British Trump across the pond. His tenure there has come to a rather eventful end. And if you've been following Boris Johnson's career, Rick, as many of us have, because we have a special relationship with the Brits. They're our buddies, and we'd like to know what's going on over there, and they follow what goes on over here. I'm not surprised it ended this way. I'm really not. It was an absolute mess.
I met Boris back in the 90s a couple times.
He's a character.
He's a character. And I have a memory in New York City of a very late evening with Boris and a number of other people. And I will say this, the drinking was epic, even by like PJ O'Rourke standards.
Right.
The drinking was epic to the point where I was outgassing scotch for like a month. You could have set any of us on fire. I do not know how that evening was survived.
That's funny.
And Boris was not shy in that drinking party. It was quite remarkable. But
he looks like he's a rip roaring good time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When I say he was the British Trump. I mean, I use that loosely because he was gregarious and with the hair and very pugnacious in certain ways, but he wasn't doing anything that was a threat to the British order of the government. You know what I mean? Outside of the what I mean?
As George Conway and David Frum both noted, the thing about Boris Johnson leaving power is that you're pretty much 100% certain he's not right now trying to whip up a giant angry crowd to invade the Houses of Parliament and overturn the resignations of his MPs and his PPSs.
Right.
I mean, it's just not the same level.
It's not the same. It's just normal political
populist, clownish, showmanship.
Right.
And a kind of an oddball, kind of a goon. I mean,
kind of.
Trump is also kind of a goon. He's an odd dude.
Yeah.
So there's a little ETTD magic floating around in the air there.
There is.
Because, they call him the British Trump. It's a good thing. And of course, he can't really be forgiven in a meaningful way by a lot of people for basically lying to folks on a number of fronts in the last few months, on COVID, on some hiring things, and a whole bunch of stuff that individually would probably seem unimportant, but in aggregate, they certainly added up to a lack of confidence in his ability to lead the party.
Correct. It was a series of things, and I had a chance to talk about it a little bit. I guest hosted the Smirkana show today on Sirius
I saw
XM.
that. Congratulations.
Thank you. I've done it before. Michael has given me the helm in the past, which I'm very honored that he trusts.
Very generous
with his radio show. 3 hours a day. God bless them. It's a lot of work of 3 hours of live radio, but I'm doing it again tomorrow. But we talked a little bit about this, and it was, he already survived a no confidence vote last month. So like he, by the skin of his teeth, he made it. And then it was just too much. He had 60 people resign. It was a mass resignation. And the first thing I thought, because the people who resigned were people in his own party. They were the Tories that said, we're done with you. You've had enough. You got to go. And why? If only that could have happened here in the United States.
I was in the UK one time when Prime Minister Howard had two prime ministerships, and I was there at the end of the first one, which kind of had a mini collapse, and it seemed insane to me back in the I guess it was the early 90s, right? Insane to me, like how much of this was visible to the public and how it was breaking and playing out. And I was driving around the UK listening to BBC, and I was like, wow, these people are nuts. I love this. And the level here is fascinating because I do think it speaks to something very important. There's a point where you can have a hardcore populist base behind you and still lose control. Now, if you do that, if you lose control in a situation like Johnson did, it proves something. you still have a functioning democracy. You still have a constitutional system that has internal dynamics and balances and checks that stop people from reigning by just pure executive fiat.
That's right.
And
the UK actually does have a monarchy.
Sure.
But
look, a parliamentary democracy is a complex beast, right. But in some ways, the rules in America are simpler.
Yes,
the rules in America are more explicit and more publicly understood by everybody. You win an election, you stay in office. You lose an election, or you commit a crime that gets you impeached and convicted, you lose the office.
Right.
It's not, it's not complicated, except for Donald Trump.
Correct.
And I will say this too, Tara. I think the most important thing, and I think we have a little video to show after I say this. If you looked at the scandals that brought down Boris Johnson, they were like the average Monday for the Trump administration.
Yes.
There were things in the Trump administration where every fucking cabinet member should have said, I'm out. See ya.
Yep.
But
at least
they waited until the last possible minute.
Well, when it didn't matter anymore.
Right.
And I was talking about that this morning on the show too, on the radio show too, where you see Mick Mulvaney now. First of all, I can't even believe that CBS gave him a job, but that's a whole different conversation.
Right.
So now he's all self-righteous about what chaos and anarchy it was at the end, and how he would never vote for a damaged Trump in a Republican primary in 2024. Shut up. I just want to say all of it.
If I were to continue the British, analogizing for today, Mick Mulvaney, first Earl of Chicken Shit, was not exactly a profile in courage when Trump was doing this kind of thing. When he was in the White House, serving as a senior advisor to the president and chief of staff. If you're going to suddenly, have the esprit d'escalaire, Mick, why don't you just go ahead and have a little self-reflection and take a seat? And you can say all the tough guy things you want to say now. But when the rest of us were calling bullshit, you were in there saying that Trump's smart farts smelled like rainbows and unicorns.
That's right.
The fuck out of here.
Exactly. So I'm like, I really don't want to hear from any of you now.
No.
All of a sudden now you found
right. Suddenly.
Yeah, get out of here.
Blast of moral courage.
Exactly. We have a rapid response video. It's a Trump Johnson Lincoln Project production that I think the audience would appreciate. Run it.
The British people did not trust him. He would say one thing and would do something else. And it's a question of integrity.
This is about his character.
You could be describing someone else. You could be describing someone else. And I hear
entitlement from an early age, a kind of deep, white hot ambition pulsing through his life, no real principles to name of any kind. A kind of cartoon.
And what about Boris Johnson? What's he like?
Britain Trump. They call him Britain Trump, and people are saying that's a good thing.
The more I study them, the more I see parallels between him and Donald Trump.
Like Trump, Boris Johnson was for a long time considered just too buffoonish, too much of a laughingstock to ever become the leader of the country. But what you're seeing now is what it looks like when a conservative party decides they have had enough.
The question is, will Republicans in America, will conservatives in America finally get to that point with Donald Trump?
I think his legacy will be that he was a British Donald Trump. The public had lost interest in him, they'd lost faith in him, and every time he opened his mouth, he seemed to be telling lies.
And it could have happened here in the U.S. if Republicans had wanted it to. Still might. Maybe someday.
I think Donald Trump is clearly out of his mind.
I'm not holding my breath, Chris Hayes. Holding my breath. Speaking of that, will Republicans ever stand up to it? Mark Leibovich has a unbelievably brilliant piece in The Atlantic talking about the cowards that are the Republicans. And he name calls Kevin McCarthy and Lady Lindsay. And it is brilliantly written. I encourage everyone to go and read that because he talks all about it. And
profiles in chicken shit.
That's right. The Earl of Chicken Shittery. Yep. So that leads me to the next thing. Speaking of chicken shits that are, I guess, now deciding that they need to fly the coop a little, and that's Cipollone. Pat Cipollone.
Indeed.
we just found out since the last time we were together on Tuesday that he is now going to testify before the January 6th committee, but behind closed doors and transcribed. But it will be videotaped. So not publicly. And I asked our friend Hugo Lowell today on the radio program if what this meant. Can they use his deposition like that we've seen through the committee hearings, that they've taken pieces of the video depositions and shown them?
Right.
And he said, yeah, they could. Whether they will or not, he's not sure what kind of deal they struck. But I said, because I think that's been a very powerful and impactful tool, because
Sure.
it's not just reading what he said. You actually hear what the people say and see them say it. I think that just has more of an impact for the public.
Yeah, there's a tone question, and look, people read body language and verbal affect and physical affect when they're looking at things like this, and they assess credibility, they assess intent, and they don't see that on a transcript.
Right.
Because I could say on a transcript, you could read a transcript where, then he took the gun out of his hand and walked up the stairs to try to hide it from the police. But when you see them talking about it, on the transcript, I'm not saying that really happened. When you see that on the transcript, it's a different thing than when you see the video.
That's right. That's absolutely right. And what else we found out, that we have another hearing coming up, like we said, on Tuesday. This one's going to focus on the extremism in the January 6th crowd there, the extremists, the Proud Boys, the Oath Keepers, and the through line potentially between these people, what they were planning, and Donald Trump. Because we do know that Trump was calling the war room at the Willard that night to talk to Steve Bannon.
Yep.
There were a couple of war rooms. They had the Bannon, Giuliani crap. And then you had Roger Stone and those guys. And Stone, we all know, had a
Roger had the genital wart room as opposed to a war room. But
oh my God. If you people know Roger Stone's history as a swinger, then you would really understand why we are laughing. Gross, but very good, Wilson. Add that to the top 10. War room. Okay, now that I can't
moving on,
I can't get that image out of my brain now. Anyway, so we're going to be talking about the extreme. They're going to be talking about the extremists, and I think that this is a part of the crescendo. I think that we're getting to here, showing. As if the Cassidy Hutchinson testimony wasn't shocking enough, but there's more.
But wait, there's more.
That's right.
It's amazing. One time only offer.
That's right. But wait, there's more. And so I'm very curious to see what they present. I feel as though it's going to be pretty harrowing. And Jamie Raskin, Congressman Raskin, who was on We're Speaking last night. If you guys haven't seen it, please go check it out. It was a great episode.
An important episode. Yep.
Really, really important. And Raskin is just an unbelievable messenger and just so smart about all these things. Anyway, he's the one that's going to be prosecuting the case on Tuesday.
Right.
And demonstrating where all of these bastards were, what they were doing, what their intent was, and who they were talking to, who was funding them, who was coordinating this. We have an idea, but I think Tuesday we're going to find out things that we didn't know before, and it's always worse than it seems so far.
Right. There's no bottom.
No.
There's no bottom.
No, it doesn't seem to be. I didn't have Donald Trump trying to strangle his Secret Service agent on my bingo card of crazy in the Trump administration. So you never know. You never know what you're going to find out. I don't know. Speaking of crazy and no bottom, Georgia and Herschel Walker. I have a particular bee in my bonnet about him because he's just such a disgusting degenerate that I can't even believe that the Republican Party would give this guy the time of day. And if he wasn't black, they wouldn't. Because, well, I don't know. I take that back now. There are a lot of crazies now that the Republican Party entertains. But the fact that he is black gives them some cover. So people say, oh, you're not racist. See, we have this guy. I remember a time when candidate recruitment, Rick, used to be a source of pride for Republicans. Now, this guy, did you see the story in the Daily Beast today where he lied about his kids?
I saw it. Look, folks, let me peel back the curtain a little bit on how the NRSC does their work. They select candidates from around the country that they want to have in those jobs. and those candidates hire the right consultants, and the right people get the consulting jobs with those candidates. And if you don't hire their consultants, you frequently won't be that candidate. Well, Herschel Walker is now, fully on board with all the correct DC establishment consultants, and they're trying to figure out how to manage this very, 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 very hot mess. And it's a shame because the guy that runs Washington, basically, he's basically the guy, the mastermind of all Mitch McConnell world. I mean, if McConnell says a word, this guy wrote it. Josh Holmes controls Mitch McConnell like a puppet, like walks him around like a puppet. He's the senator, he's the 52nd senator, whatever. And he's got control over this now. They think they can help Herschel Walker win this race. It's going to be a real challenge for him. They're really investing a lot of time trying to elect somebody who is who's a chronic fabulist, and who tragically, on all kidding aside, and I've said this before, he quite clearly suffers from mental illness.
Yes.
He quite clearly suffers from something, either it was from traumatic brain injury from playing or some other factor, but his behavior in terms of his, suicidal ideation and his narcissism and everything else,
and violent tendencies,
right, has acted out in violent outbursts repeatedly, and it's a really tough question. How long can Josh Holmes hold on with his favorite candidate there? How long can Josh and Mitch McConnell continue to invest in a guy like this?
Well, the story in the Daily Beast also says that his own campaign makes fun of him, and they know that he's a pathological liar, and that they're out there trying to find out how many more kids does this guy have? What else have we got, that we don't know about going on with him? His own people. And you know why? And you hit the nail on the head. It's the same thing that happened with Ben Carson. Ben Carson had no business running for president, and he had no business being HUD secretary. The guy was a brain surgeon. He a neurosurgeon. He should have stayed there. He was a celebrated, amazingly accomplished doctor, surgeon.
Tremendous life story.
Unbelievable life story that he has completely ruined his legacy because ding, ETTD, and everything Trump touches dies. And Ben Carson is another one of those people whose legacy is completely tarnished because he got in bed with Trump and these Republican consultants who puffed him up, and they raised all this money, got their pockets nice and fat with consultant money, knowing good and now damn well he didn't have a chance in hell to win and shouldn't have been up there. Same thing with Herschel Walker. And this is honestly a blown opportunity for Republicans because they could honestly have won that seat back. They could have won that seat back. And I don't see how they do it now. I don't see how there's no way. I shouldn't say that.
I wouldn't say no way, but I will say some of the predicates that they were really bought in on 3, 4, 5 weeks ago are now looking a little less secure than they did. Gas prices have come down dramatically, and they look like they're on a trajectory to come down even further. The Fed has rattled its sabers enough on inflation that we're starting to see some moves in that direction, self-correcting or correcting.
Yep.
And what's the predicate for Herschel Walker? I'm going to go to DC to overturn the election.
Right.
I'm going to be Trump's guy. Doesn't strike me as the strongest argument. And look, I think you and I have been around this block a long time. Candidate quality matters.
It does.
Okay. And on an objective scoring scale, take aside all partisanship aside, Reverend Warnock is like an A-, B+ on a bad day.
Right.
Okay. I've seen him hit really amazing high notes, extraordinary performances. Herschel Walker is a D on his best day. He is a bad candidate. He is not a good candidate. There is a difference. There's a qualitative difference. You can always tell. I'll give you, look, guys, whether you love Barack Obama or hate him, Barack Obama was a spectacular political candidate.
Right. That's
spectacular. Right. Hillary Clinton, whether you loved her or hated her, was a ghastly, terrible political candidate.
Yeah.
Set aside all your policy, whatever, her career, her life. Being a candidate is a thing. It's like being a juggler. You can either juggle well or you fucking can't juggle.
Yeah, there is no in between.
And there's no in between. And
Not
you've
at
got
that
to
level.
either learn that skill or don't be in the juggling game.
That's right. No, you're 100% right about that. And this is just watching this unfold has been very interesting. And I don't understand why Democrats don't put more Republicans on the hot seat, asking them, do they support this guy? Where
Listen, there's a simple set of questions
to answer it.
Right.
Force them to answer it.
It's so simple. Is Joe Biden the legitimate president? Just a yes or no will suffice.
Right.
Will you agree to the results of this election, with the outcome of this election when the votes are counted? Was 1/6 a simple tourist visit or a terrorist attack on the Capitol?
Right.
Should Donald Trump have accepted the results here in Georgia and not asked for 11 recounts or whatever the number was, 7 or 11, whatever the final number was? And these questions are not hard to come up with.
Exactly.
Do you believe a woman should have to have her husband's permission to get a checking account or birth control?
Right.
Should sodomy be illegal in your state? Where do you stand on gay adoption?
Yeah, I mean,
all these questions are both pendant to the Supreme Court and relevant in these campaigns. And Democrats they always rely on making a policy argument instead of going out and asserting against the bad guys.
Yes, which is where there's still hope. Let's hope they're listening. Please listen. We're trying
Please
to help
listen.
you. Help us help you, please.
Help
please.
us help you.
Yes. Speaking of that, the type of help that the Trump campaign and his acolytes were looking for in 2020 seems to be getting them in some legal hot water. As we said on Tuesday, 7 of Trump's folks were subpoenaed by the Georgia grand jury, but it's a special grand jury. It's not a criminal grand jury. I think it's important for people to understand that this current grand jury down in Georgia does not have the ability to issue criminal indictments. All they can do is basically they're investigative and they're going to issue a report, and then it goes to a judge and the judge decides, okay, whether it should continue or what happens after that. So that's a little bit of a technical thing that's going on there, but important to understand. But it's not insignificant what's going on there, because it looks like the fake elector, find me some votes, Lindsey Graham calling up Brad Raffensperger and saying, hey, do you really need to count all those absentee ballots? None of that was okay.
Good job, Lindsey.
Right. And it looks like Senator Graham, who is a senator of a neighboring state, not of Georgia, okay? This doesn't impact South Carolina any. Him calling up the Secretary of State there seems to be problematic for him. And he's not cooperating. He's not cooperating. He's decided that he's going to fight this. He's saying that he was within his right because he was judiciary chairman or whatever he was at the time. Come on. I think he's just doing this, Rick, to run out the clock.
No question.
Because what other excuse can you use?
No, look, I think there's a very limited portfolio of excuses left. Yeah. And very few of them are either credible or rational.
Right. That's right. And this is because Lindsey Graham's entire political existence has been, he's been a barnacle on another larger political player's ass. That's how he's gone through his entire political career. So now he's looking to where he can, who he's going to attach himself to next. So while he's waiting for who that's going to be, he's floundering a little bit. He doesn't know what to do. And so because he's never been able to stand on his own political existence. He rode the coattails of John McCain, and then he rode the very large coattails of Donald Trump's ass. And now that Trump is in a precarious
I declare,
situation,
Donald, every time you fought, it's a revelation.
It smells like roses. Oh my gosh.
No, but these 7 idiot lawyers, these people. These people are like strip mall slip and fall lawyers who have suddenly found themselves playing the A game. In part, folks, because the Lincoln Project we knew Trump was going to screw around with this election almost immediately, almost on election day. Mm-hmm. We took steps immediately because we found out that Trump's white shoe law firms like Porter White and Case, Jones Day, they were going into the states and they were attempting to stop the counts. They were attempting to disqualify African-American voters in these states. And so we took action. We asked you, the folks who are engaged and energized with the Lincoln Project to go out there and kick the shit out of these people. We asked you to go out there and make sure they understood that you were watching.
Not
so
literally.
we did.
Not literally. Just want to be clear.
Yeah,
about
not
that.
literally, but to make sure that you were watching and you knew who they were, and to take action, as was our First Amendment right.
That's right.
So by the 9th of November of 2020, Mark Meadows was sending Bill Barr emails with a dossier about the Lincoln Project saying this is all the information about the Lincoln Project. He wanted Bill Barr to launch an attack or an investigation on the Lincoln Project because we stood in the way of Donald Trump's scumbag, low-rent, gutter snipe, wastrel mall lawyers overturning the election.
That's right.
And guess what? Now he's got this C or D team of lawyers who I wouldn't try to litigate me out of a speeding ticket, who are all in deep shit.
Yeah.
We actually did these white shoe law firms a big favor. We did you guys a big favor by getting you out of legal jeopardy that you didn't even see coming for yourselves.
Early on, yeah.
But folks, you're welcome. We're gonna have a lot more to say, folks, about what the Justice Department did with that information from Mark Meadows. We're gonna have a lot to say about where Mark Meadows got the order to get Barr to attack us. We're going to be talking a lot more about this in the next couple of weeks. I've been spending a lot of my time on the phone today with attorneys dealing with this question because it is a big one. This is the abuse of power at a level that we have rarely seen. And, when I saw the stories about Jim Comey and Andy McCabe getting the super special extra rectal tax audit.
Yep.
Mysteriously, and these guys, folks, they work for the fucking government. Their taxes are uninteresting by nature. And so this was pure harassment.
No, it wasn't harassment. It was political retribution. Let's be clear.
Tara.
Because this was in 2017 when Donald Trump had to stick up his ass about Jim Comey and Andy McCabe, and it happened then. It didn't. It's not happening now. It happened in 2017, and there's a 1 in 30,000 chance of getting that audit. 1 in 30,000, and both of them, two people who happen to be perceived political enemies of Trump, get called in for this audit. So when I saw this, I said, "This is political retribution 101, straight out of the Nixonian playbook."
Yep.
And why didn't they call the Inspector General of the IRS to come and look at this? And
my tax lawyer told me today. He said those kind of audits. He says if I was going to profile who it was, it's like people who report multi-million dollars of cash income,
right?
And don't from mysterious sources.
Exactly.
This isn't two guys who work for the federal government.
Two guys that have security clearance at the highest level of the federal government. And I can tell you, as the wife of someone with security clearance, you have to have all of your ducks in a row and all of your decimal points in the right place when it comes to your tax returns in order to get your security clearance renewed. So this is such bullshit. It's unbelievable. But since I had my thought about the Inspector General, why haven't they looked into it? I did see before we came on air that the IRS commissioner is now asking for the Inspector General to take a look at it.
Well, I'm glad they did that. And there was a big scandal back in the 2013 window with this woman, Lois Lerner, who, and a lot of the MAGAs, they were like, well, what about Lois Lerner? And I went back and I found my old tweets. I'm like, this is unacceptable.
Right.
Hey guys, it was unacceptable then, and it's unacceptable now.
Exactly.
The rules apply to everyone, or they aren't rules.
Correct. This is the political retribution part of it. This is just the tip of the iceberg. This is just what we know about. You know how many more actions like this probably took place that we just don't know about. And if these people get into power again, God forbid, God help us, if Donald Trump got reelected, you can forget about any of these institutions, any of these processes maintaining their integrity. They're out the window. He already did it once. And if he gets elected again, he gets away with it. It's over with. It's game over. And I just don't know what it's going to take for people to understand that. That's right. I don't know. And that leads me to, I just saw something else talking about how I think it was Howard Kurtz talking about now, because we see that Fox is starting to change their tune a little bit on Trump. And guess who their heir apparent is? It's DeSantis. We all
Of
know
course
this.
it
They're
is.
they're not even trying to be subtle about it anymore, and talking about how now, some of the media the right-wing media is souring on Trump now, and it's because of the January 6th hearings. They're saying, you know what, it's too much. We don't want that guy anymore. And Ron DeSantis is the beneficiary. And
Right.
I think you heard the same, that DeSantis is doing a fundraiser in Utah.
In first in Salt
Utah?
Lake, then in Park City. Surprising. I will say this.
He's running for governor of Florida, not Utah. So
Ron
why
DeSantis,
else would he do that?
Ron DeSantis, folks, he has taken everything from Trump except Melania. And the year is young. This is a guy who is absolutely going to run against Trump.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people are like, why would you want Trump and DeSantis to fight each other? I'm like, I want them to be like crabs in a bucket.
Mm-hmm.
I want to go into 24 with a battle royal between these two folks, because DeSantis gives the sweater vest brigade, the guys who are like, Glenn Youngkin is the future.
Yeah.
He gives them a sense of comfort where they can pretend he's normal.
That's right.
And they can pretend he's just a regular Republican.
No, he's not.
No. Not like it's not. That's not how any of this works.
No.
He is a statist. He is a wannabe authoritarian. He's a bully. He's a punk. And so, of course, he's perfect for the Republican nomination in this particular MAGA culture.
Yep.
But I do think you're going to see, we've got a new ad going up today in both Tallahassee and Mar-a-Lago, reminding people just where the political playing field between DeSantis and Trump stands at this moment.
Yes, and I think we have a preview of it. Yes,
we do. You guys are going to get an exclusive preview.
Yes, exclusive preview.
It's hard to watch, isn't it, Donald? Ron DeSantis betrayed you to become a star, raising millions by stealing your act, winning straw polls and fans. They're running to Ron, and Ron's running against you. You made him, and he betrayed you. He's laughing at you, running against you. He's taking everything from you, and by the time you fight back, it will be too late. Sad.
Oh,
the funny thing is, it's like I've got the skeleton key to Donald Trump's head, and no matter how many times we say this is how the magic trick works, the magic trick still works. This will be up in Bedminster this weekend, and I'll tell you guys a little trick of the trade with the Lincoln Project. When he's in Bedminster, that's his golf club. So what's on every cable channel in Bedminster except in the bar where there's Fox? The Golf Channel. Yes. On every goddamn TV there. So where do we buy the ads? The Golf Channel.
Oh, I think there may be some ketchup smearing down the walls of Bedminster.
There may be some ketchup problems.
Well, speaking of next week, as we end our show today, we have 2 more hearings for January 6th next week. We're hearing that next Thursday will be the last one in prime time. Tuesday's hearing is at 10 a.m. and we will be back doing post-hearing live commentary and reaction after that hearing on Tuesday. So make sure you tune in. We are running the hearings live here on LPTV, so you can also watch them here. And then a couple minutes after, Rick and I will be live with our hot takes on what took place. So make sure you come hang out with us next week. We will have plenty to say, and I'm eager to see what is revealed in the next hearing.
Y'all have a great weekend.